So what was interesting, there was a Dinah Shandell who became the boyfriend of Paul Thorson. Prior to that, she's a few years older than Paul. She's born in the mid-50s. She was married, divorced twice in the 70s. She's born and raised in basically Tallahassee, Florida. So not a far, stone throws away to the CDC. She would go get her PhD up in Pennsylvania, I think Penn State it was, on anthropology. And then coming out with her PhD, I guess she ended up getting a job in Woburn, Mass, which is a small town in north of Boston, and that was part of the movie Civil Action. And it was part of the cancer clusters in that town, which had two different water wells. And these kids were getting rare cancers in the late 60s and 70s, I believe. And she had worked on the epidemiology of those cancer clusters, of the normal kids and of that. And at the time, the CDC was involved somehow, and they got wind of Diana Shandell. And she was basically recruited, not directly through Colleen Boyle, but whoever recruited her basically turned her over to Colleen Boyle. And in 1992, basically a year later, she ended up joining the Centers for Disease Control and Epidemiology, and would go from there. You would find her name in the mid-90s on several studies with other Center for Disease Control people like Frank DiStefano, Bill Thompson, Colleen Boyle's name would be on there, people like that. And by 2000, her and Paul Thorson were an item. She would actually, thanks to the book Vaccine Whistleblower, where the Thompson transcripts come out, thanks to Brian Hooker's hard work, we would learn that through those transcripts that Dinah Shandell would fly to Denmark to make sure that certain things got done, and they were progressing with these different studies. What was interesting with Thorson is he set up a research group, but treated like as if it was a startup, but they weren't building any product. They weren't building a software platform. All he was doing was taking different students, which were cheap, or interns, right, were very cheap, or taking actual professors or other candidates who are getting paid by university and putting it under his research group, but he wasn't paying them. So basically, you have to figure out, of the $1 million that were indictments by the Department of Justice, there has to be a lot more money missing than that. And what you'd learn is Paul Thorson has a condo up in Aarhus, which is on the beach, the Baltic Sea, had shared a place with a different girlfriend in Sweden, in Stockholm, during the financial crisis of 2008 and 9 and 10, and still has a place in Odense University. So even though he doesn't work at the university system, he actually works in the back door. He still publishes articles. Here's a future for the United States, and some of these studies have grants from NIH, and Thorson ends up on these studies. It's quite remarkable. So Diana Shandell ran into a problem. When the Paul Thorson crimes were actually starting to come out, I believe the CDC caught wind of it before Aarhus University did. And I'll explain how the fraud went down. But basically, I believe Julie Gerberding, who was the CDC director from 2002 to 2009, knowing she was going on the way out with the new administration from Obama, basically, with a wink of an eye, a hint or something, had somebody go to Aarhus University and said, you better investigate Paul Thorson because these crimes are going on, right? We're missing lots of money. You better do an audit, so on and so forth. And sure enough, that happened. So basically, if you look at the indictment, which had the 22 counts, the last two disbursements, one was a withdrawal of $29,000, a wire withdrawal to a bank account Thorson had in Denmark, and another was a check written to himself for $29,000. They're both the same amount of money. It's kind of amazing. All happened around Halloween. So that's 6 weeks after the world had a financial meltdown and almost fell apart. So I think Thorson wanted to grab one more round of money before he knew he was going to kind of be pushed out or whatever. And I'm sure he sensed that was happening, which was quite amazing. And because of this, again, thanks to Brian Hooker's work, we would learn that Diana Shandell in 2009 had a letter of reprimand, which is a 2-year probationary period letter, which threatens the CDC/federal government employee that if you do something else that's illegal, bad, or whatever, you're going to get fired and you're going to lose your pension. And she, at that point, she was 16, 17 years into the CDC, and she realized she was on her best behavior. And by 2013, she left the CDC with a full pension. She magically, even though she doesn't date Paul Thorson anymore, at least that's what she tells me, but she wouldn't, talk about it. She actually now works at Paul's own university, Aarhus University. She works in Denmark. She works and lives in Denmark, which is remarkable. So she went to work there and she continued to do autism research, epidemiology, and is incredible that she would actually go over there, even though I don't think they're dating anymore. It's kind of interesting.